So I guess just once again, just take us back to that first night for the first flood in Conklin. It's raining. Mm-hmm. There's some flash flooding going on. Just tell us a little bit about what was going through your mind at that point.
Well, I think for everybody was surprised at the amount of water that kept falling. But 40 years before that, I was told that it's never flooded out there. So of course, we didn't look at it as anything. And it was a tough time for us too because we were pregnant, we were going full term, and we were excited. Just didn't know what night that would fall on, and of course, September 18th, that morning, we not only knew that we had to get to the hospital, but we had to fight through water. So my wife was put on a boat. We were boated off of the property for about maybe 3 blocks, and then she got in the ambulance and gave birth that afternoon, September 18th. That was my daughter, Marika.
I mean, talk us through that process. I mean, from the point where you knew this was going to be the day to kind of you recognizing, something's going on here. There's a lot of flooding. At what point did you reach it? What was kind of the boiling point where you guys reached out and said, hey, we need to get out of here now?
The first 2 floods actually really didn't come off that way. They were a little sneaky. The 06 flood was the one that really, I came from work from Syracuse at about 1 in the afternoon. And I looked at the edge of the riverbank, and I just noticed that water was climbing fast. And that was more of a panic-driven day because the water kept rising so fast. I think if we didn't get that heads up, it would have been even more devastating. We were able to escape that day and head up Colesville Road. And you're talking about boulders and rocks and everything just coming down those roads. I mean, everybody was devastated. We were told we weren't supposed to continue, but we still headed out to my mother-in-law's home out in Harpersville. But it was just terrifying to know that water was rising that fast. No one was prepared for that.
Now you get on the boat, you realize your wife is ready to deliver a baby. Mm-hmm. Again, what's going through your mind here? I mean, you have to be, worried about everybody's well-being here.
Well, the funny part was I told my wife I didn't know that her water broke. So it broke in that way, and everybody laughed. But we had a very new EMT person that was on the boat with us, and he was very nervous as he thought he would have to help with the delivery process. But my wife was a fighter. She did really well, and she made it to the hospital, and everything was a lot better then. But, to not know what's going on at home while that was happening, my 2-year-old son at the time and I, we try to plan it and get back at the house and fix things up. Debbie Preston, Jim Finch, they did a very good job of trying to keep people calm, cool, and collected. But we all went through it together. And I think that was the positive side of all this, is everyone dealing with it and going through it together.
Now, there seems to be this kind of overlying theme throughout life and a lot of different tragedies that, sometimes it does take a tragedy to bring a community together. Can you speak to, how Ms. Preston and Mr. Finch have done that and kind of made you guys comfortable, considering the circumstances?
Well, you got to understand there was a high level of panic, for a lot of people. They didn't know what they were going to do. There were some people that were with FEMA at the time. We were one of them. Where FEMA had stated in 2005 that, after this time we're not for sure what we can do. And we're all thinking, look, we don't expect another flood to come. So for Debbie Preston to fight with Albany as much as she did to help families like myself, there was about 17 of us at the time in the buyout program. And that's why we understand what's going on in Vestal and some other areas that are still waiting on that process to come to fruition. But she kept throwing punches to the wind, and, she finally hit something, and, everybody took courage that, if you keep the fight going, that it will be done. We just didn't expect to have to, give up on Conklin at that particular level.
This is a place that you call home, and to see it, not only to look back and see the damage that was done, but to see it in real time, that has to be very overwhelming.
Yeah, it's very funny because I was born in '72 in Elmira, and back then that was Hurricane Agnes that came through and brought devastation to Corning. That whole entire region. In fact, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton was devastated. So I have a little history with a little bit of the flooding side of it. But to have a daughter that was born the day of the first one, and then to have your entire office, your home, everything totally lost to that '06 flood. It was just something that you just could not plan for. And it's broken families up. There was a lot of infrastructure that was destroyed, even business-wise, in our area. So For us to still be here, number one, we didn't want to give up on the area, of course, and I told Debbie that I wouldn't give up on this area or the kids or the business life that we have here, and to know that we're still throwing punches is one of the positive things that we can take from this.
And this had to be an extremely difficult time, but looking back on this now, to know that not only you were able to deliver your daughter, move on from losing your office, your home, keeping that tight-knit family bond together, that has to be something that kind of kept you guys together.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people call it a post-traumatic stress disorder. There was a lot of people that dealt with that based on losing their home. It happens with kids getting out of school and not finding a job. I mean, there's a lot of different levels to stress. And to be able to manage stress sometimes is one of the biggest victories that anybody can take, especially in a flood-related or an unforeseen occurrence issue. To know that you're not willing to give up is one of the best confidences that you can ever have. And it's ironic now, too, because this year, my wife and I celebrate 15 years of marriage, and it's actually on the 15th day of this month in the 15th year. So it's kind of interesting. And, of course, my mother and father-in-law are celebrating their 50th anniversary. So it's a good year for all of us right now. But you got to stay in the fight in order to have a shot like that. So
talk about how going through that struggle and going through that loss, although it was a very difficult time in your life, talk about how that made you kind of help develop the person you are today.
Yeah, everybody that has known me from this area, I played football with the BC Jets. I've coached Little League for years. I've worked for a few companies here and there. But to have a business and to do well with the 2, 3, and 4 player chessboard game, Chess Empire, that I was doing at the time, I mean, that was our livelihood. And when something like that is ripped away from you, I mean, that's like someone just closing down your office, your bank, and just, you have nothing. And so, it's hard to go from having something and then having nothing and really asking the question, what are we going to do now? And it takes having a great partner. It takes having good families behind you to know that you can climb back up that hill. So I think all in all, without that support, that was what helped gave me enough support for myself to say, look, I gotta stand up for this family. I gotta stand up for others that are suffering through the same thing that we were going through at the time.
And why is your story important to be told? It seems like a lot of people were impacted by this flood, and I feel like that if people kind of hear what you have to say, they bring themselves back to that situation, and they can even understand too. We did similar things. A lot of people have been able to build back up. A lot of people have reopened their homes or relocated, and just talk about that situation.
Well, I think the saddest part for all of us here in the Southern Tier is we're losing a lot of people left and right. I mean, I wanted it to be one of those stories where even after all the struggles that we faced, the unforeseen occurrences, that we wanted to still stay afloat. We wanted to still stay here and fight. And show others that it could be done. And I think on the other side of the coin, going from all the tragedies that we dealt with to now getting to the point to where we're at now with the book being released, with the trading card game. I made casino table games, so I'm in contracts right now with negotiations with some of those things. It just kind of proves that this fight was something that could be won, and to have proof that it is at this level now, that I'm possibly going to be able to succeed and survive all of that, I think that proves that it could be done. And that serves as an example for ones that are going through it.
Let's talk a little bit about the book now. You mentioned there's a trading card game along with this. Yes. So would you say that this is kind of a representation of kind of the resurgence of your career here? I mean, you mentioned that you had the chess thing going on back in the day. So this is kind of a newer. You mentioned this is something that really is revolutionary to the iBook world. Yeah. So do you see a foundation of your chess past as part of this new present?
Yeah, I think so, especially in the business world. I mean, it's not as easy as it is now to make a profit. You actually have to have more people that are excited about what you have, and sometimes you have to be different in order to have that excitement. I was never concerned about being first or last. I was always concerned about being right. Because if you're right, you have the opportunity to put all your effort into that. And with the success of where the board game was at the time, if we had a little bit more time, we would have been able to make it worldwide on a level that would have been just amazing. But when you dealt with the devastation that we had to put it on the back burner. So that was fortunate for me, and especially with Selective Quest, it was written in one of the darkest times of my life because I was powerless. I didn't have the providership that I used to have for taking care of my family and etc. Those powers were taken away. And when you are humble enough to accept help from others when you normally weren't used to that, that takes a better person. So I think a lot of my energies went into writing Selective Quest, and then we re-edited it in a way that it conforms to the younger generation, where we're able to use the ebook process compared to the paperback, which a lot of young ones just don't have the time to read. But I think that's what gave me the vigor to stay into the fight.
Can you talk a little bit more about this past chess game? Just give a little more insight to maybe some folks that don't know what was involved.
Yeah, Chess Empire. You can still Google it anywhere. Chess Empire was a 2, 3, and 4 player chessboard game that took the simple person that wasn't really too good or too strong with chess and gave them a lot of power. I was tired of the person standing behind me saying, "Oh, I would have never moved my piece there," and now we forced them to sit down next to us and play in the same game. But I also took grandmasters of chess and kind of brought them a little down to our level so that we could go after them. Sometimes with chess, the less power you have, the less confidence you have, but with the more power you have, the more confident you become. So you're able to make minor mistakes and still be able to recoup. And I think that was the biggest lesson that was learned with Chess Empire. And it made it exciting. So that's one of the things we wanted to do.
One kind of recurring theme that I'm getting between us here is this sense of power. You mentioned that you wrote the book during a very powerless part of your life, a dark part of your life, and now it seems like you've gotten that power and that confidence back. So talk about the importance, of taking a negative situation. I mean, a lot of people could take that and just be like, that's it. That's it. I give up. But talk about, the perseverance that you showed to not only overcome the flood, not only overcome a safe delivery of your daughter, but, you have a whole new thing here that you can call your own.
Yeah, well, you got to understand, too, one of the worst issues that we've had in New York State was, the opportunity of careers and jobs, moving forward. A lot of people move out of the area because we didn't have, the businesses that would support the education behind the people. And so, I was stuck in a situation where, if I didn't step up to the plate and do something, that I would be lost, and I wasn't willing to give up my family. So I basically went back to the woodshed and restudied myself and said, what can I do that could do something now for not only my family but also for others? And that's where I came up with the concept of the Selective Quest. The trading card game is it's never been done before, and we have to be groundbreaking. And I come from from Mark Twain country, out there in Elmira, to Rod Sterlingville, which is out here. So I have to do it the right way. I'm under pressure already, but I don't want to let those readers down either. And so I wanted to do something where we not only challenged science, math, religion, faith, all those things, but we've lost our youth. I mean, they're stuck behind the core education program that has not been a success. There's a lot of frustrations that are out there, and I wanted to take everybody and kind of say, look, everybody stop for a second. Let's take a deep breath and take a look at your real life. Take a look at what's really going on. Let your conscience be your guide. And I think that's what's driven Selective Quest to be where it's at now. We have over 1,100 purchases already on Smashwords. We're with BarnesandNoble.com worldwide. I'm getting ready to do more on the marketing side of this to help support it. And I picked up a gentleman, Robert Hannum, out of Denver University, who's our Robert Burns character in the book. So I've been very fortunate to continue to have the contacts that I've gained.
In today's world, traditional styles, media is always changing and evolving. So let's talk about this groundbreaking effort here. Not only is this a story, it's an interactive story with interactive music, a trading card game. I mean, talk about how you've taken so many different facets of media and integrated it into something that consumers have really never seen before.
Right. Well, the amazing thing about technology today is what we have today wasn't available 10 years ago. It's a lot easier now to market and to get in contact with people because of communications. We didn't have Facebook as big as it is now, and Twitter, and people taking selfies. I mean, that just wasn't around a few years ago. But now we have access to that, and with that access, there's a certain level of responsibility. And we wanted to go at it in a way that everyone has an opportunity to hear something they've never seen before, to give someone a gift that they've never had, and at the same time give them a new experience. I think life has always been about the experience, about the journey. And what you can take out of that journey and that experience is what makes you grow as a person. That's what helps build your confidence and helps you pass that final exam in high school at that level, or, finish your thesis to the point that you're ready to take on that new career, or even, hire that extra person and bring them into your company.
What is it like for you to know that you're not only making a difference, but you're also able to give students a new opportunity to learn at a very reasonable cost?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we forget is our world is ran by a lot of corporations. They do have a lot of funds to go around. It's how those funds are dispersed. And I think those funds could be supporting our youth and supporting our college guys that are getting out of school and stuck with what's almost similar to a mortgage payment and not having the support that they need. I think one of the biggest key issues in life is that in life you either need to have to lead, follow, or get out of the way. And I've never followed. I've always tried to help lead because, if I set a good example, others are going to come along and do it better. And that's what I've always been, taught as a kid is, I love my father. I appreciate everything he's done for me, but I've always felt that I'm responsible to be better than what he was in order to help affect the world the right way.
And I guess, at this point, it has to be very meaningful to you to know that, again, you've overcome so much, but not only have been able to kind of scrape by, but be able to really turn things around full circle here and introduce a new opportunity for yourself and your family.
Well, I can't put it all on my shoulders. I have to be appreciative of ones that helped make this possible. And I'm talking about people like Debbie Preston, Mr. Richard David, our mayor now today, Jim Finch. There's a lot of business people here in Broome County that are still willing to help. And if you jump on board and be humble and let them show you and say, look, that you made it through this, why not do that? Sometimes you have to be willing to accept leadership. But I'm very fortunate to, like I said before from the very beginning, and I'm going to tear up on this, but I couldn't have even been half as successful as I am today without the help of my wife. And for 15 years of marriage, I couldn't ask for anything more, and I'm looking forward to the next 15. So
it seems like your family has been a very, very strong motivator behind a lot of what you do. Talk about, what it's like having such a strong bond with you and your family, and how that's kind of led you to do some great things when you really didn't have many great days back then.
Yeah, it was easy to stay in the dark, pretty much. And I think that's one of the reasons why our cover to our book is set up the way it is. It's easy to stay in the dark and be negative and look at all the negative things around you. But, if you don't take it as a learning experience, if you don't take it as a challenge and say, what can I do about it, you're going to stay in the dark. And I think that was the benefit that I had from coming from a family of 9 kids, is that, as the oldest boy, you don't let anybody else mess around with the little chicks in the family. You protect them. And now you can't protect them as they're older because they're adults themselves. But you learn and you realize that, they're following your lead and you're an example. And if you give up or you quit, what does that say for them? So, I not only had to prove to my kids, to my own brothers and sisters that are out there, but there was other families, as we mentioned from the beginning, that were going through the same thing. And I think as a confidence builder for them to know that you can keep going, you can move forward, and you can move above the issues and the problems that we all faced. I think that's what makes living even better.
How has this book helped you kind of heal from, those terrible days?
I think more or less it's the message in the book. Selective Quest, the term itself, is actually designed around an exhibition boat that was lost at sea. So that's really where I came up with the name. But being able to make choices, that's where the selective part comes into play. And it's a quest because, we deal with this every single day. Some people don't know how they're going to pay that last bill that they had last month, and at the same time, others don't have those issues. So those are the ones that can help those that have those bills and those unnecessary pressures to give them the same opportunity of enjoying life.
When did you decide that you wanted to write the book?
I decided to write the book when I was at my very lowest point. I didn't want to act out. It would have been very easy for me to just act out against the world and go down a dark path. I could have led to drinking, to all the other abuses that are out there. And I decided a long time ago when I started to put the pen to paper that there was always a story that I wanted to tell. But I thought I was going to be in a better position, that, sales were great here and, my family's great. Now I got time to write. And, sometimes nature doesn't do that to us. Sometimes nature comes to us and says, what are you going to do about it? So I think that's what gave me the time and the patience to write and let the words come out. And our characters do the same thing. I mean, they're from all walks of life. And that's how the world is. And to grow as a tree, in order for those blossoms to show up and the beautiful flowers and the fruit that it can bear, you always start out with that little seed that's planted before it grows. And so to be there, like, that was really the core of writing Selective Quest, is to be that seed and act and see who we could else benefit, based on that tree growing.
You mentioned that there was this story in your head that needed to be told. When you first sat down and you got the pen to the paper, was this something where there was just kind of a flood of emotion where, your hand was just writing everything down? Or was this more of a sit down, let me reflect first and really take my time with this? What was the writing process like?
I've never been an author before. So this was more of a emotion-filled, adrenaline-filled, hate-filled. I had so much hate. And I didn't want those words to come out against anyone. So I had to look at the core of where all of this could have been possibly coming from. Why was I being attacked? Was I cursed? What was really, truly going on? And that was my motivation for writing out my feelings, turning that into a story, and also taking it to a lower level where teenagers were involved, because it's like a fresh start for them. I wasn't a teenager at the time, but the way the story converts itself is I was more or less the father figure of the teenager and struggling with issues. And so I wanted to use my hate, my rage, and everything, and convert that from the dark to the light. It's so easy to do wrong nowadays than it is to do the right thing. So that's why the dark always has a higher power over the light feeling or the light person. And I just wanted to show everybody that no matter what you're up against, that you have an opportunity to do something about it. And based on what you do is your outcome. Everyone is creating new outcomes based on their efforts and what they do in their fight in the game.
When folks open this book and begin reading, what do you hope they see from this book? What do you hope that they take away from this book?
I really have a high anticipation of them knowing that they can see the action in the book. And the way we incorporate the music, where you can just link right onto it, and you're in the mood, you're in the moment. I wanted them to be in the moment because I think they can really get a good grip as to the real fight that's really going on today. And this is a real. This started off as a fiction, book, but I wanted it to be a nonfiction by the time I get to the third book, because there's a lot of truths that we really do go after. We tackle. This is really about black and white, about rich and poor, about young and old, and it's how it all comes together and how it's intertwined, that where we can find ourselves and make a difference. So I really hope that our readers can jump in with both feet, just like I did when I